Meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, 4 selectmen are present. Mrs. Donahue is absent this evening. Also with us, John Sanjanet, Town Administrator.
All right, thank you. First order of business is citizens' participation. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I live at 15 Roby Street, Swiftnet Beach.
Have a seat, please.
Good evening. Once again, my name is Cherie Miles.
If you can use the microphone, just thank you.
Okay. Once again, good evening. My name is Cherie Miles, and I live at 15 Roby Street. And about 2 weeks ago, I became aware, due to a little small article in the newspaper, that my street may become a no parking street. And so following that notification, I drafted a letter. I have a copy of that letter, which I delivered personally to the selectmen, and I had an opportunity to meet with John Sanguinet, the town administrator. I've lived at this address for 13 years, and my husband and I think, are great. And to take and have a decision made unilaterally that there is going to be no parking on our street without consulting my husband and I or any of our neighbors is very disturbing, to say the least. It affects who we can invite to our home, and it affects us in a large way. The letter that I wrote put together some proposals of some possible ways that you could address this issue. One, possibly making it no parking on one side. One, having people that live there have guest passes for their guests so that they can park there. But rather than do that, after hand-delivering the letter and having a conversation with John Sanguinet, what do I come home to but simply see a posting of no parking on either side? I really think that's grossly unfair, and as a taxpayer in this town, I feel that we should be consulted. We're the people that live there. And I speak not only for myself, but I've also spoken with 4 of my neighbors in the short time that I've had available to do that. And they are all in the same position as I am. And that's Rosa and Leonardi Majori, Sonny and Marie Milano, Lucinda Goncalves, and myself. And I haven't even had a time to meet with other neighbors who aren't there as frequently.
Well, thank you for your comments in your letter. I am familiar with Roby Street. I live a couple of streets over from you. Well, 3 streets over from you. I too have been contacted many times, numerous times, by people throughout your neighborhood, my neighborhood, complaining bitterly every summer that people are parking all over their property or parking in front of their homes where their guests excuse me, and family members can't park. And that's dismaying because, as you know, as a resident of Roby Street, there is a fairly good-sized beach parking lot that abuts and is adjacent to Roby Street, actually on either end. 87 parking spaces where we have town volunteers, seniors, in our senior tax work-off program that are manning those lots to ensure that people parking there have adequate stickers, and so as a result of that, not just in our neighborhood but Onset and other beach neighborhoods, the response, unfortunately, rather than just doing the right thing and paying the fee. We're a coastal community. We have rich resources. It's a beautiful beach community, as you well know, having lived here 14 or 13 years. People want to come here, and I want them to come here. But we also have large, dense populations in our beach communities. And the people who live there year-round, like you, also have concerns. and they feel they have rights, and they feel that their property is occasionally being abused. If people would just simply park where they're supposed to park in the parking lots.
I'll give you a perfect example.
Pardon me. Let me finish. If people just simply parked in the appropriate parking lots, I think we wouldn't be having these issues. Now, to get to your specific issue about your street, Roby. Roby was never an open, free parking street, nor were any of the other streets that were posted recently. It was always no parking. What happened was many of those signs throughout our neighborhoods were vandalized or destroyed or removed intentionally, and therefore the no parking restriction could not be enforced because there were no parking signs. So the town went through great expense to put those signs back up, not to hinder neighborhoods, but to protect neighborhoods, and not to cause grievance with our residents, but to allow them who pay taxes like yourself to be able to enter their neighborhoods and have their summer guests and family and friends without competing for spaces on their own streets when there is ample parking available in these parking lots.
No, there isn't.
Well, ma'am, I live there, and I see those lots fairly empty on a regular basis with many spots available.
If I might interject, I'm Cherie's niece.
Excuse me. Please don't interject. Let me finish my statement, and then we're going to wrap this up. Roby, like many other streets that are now posted, were always non-parking streets. Those signs were removed illegally, and they have been replaced. And nobody notified anybody because they shouldn't have been parking there in the first place. And all we did was replace signs that were originally in place. I understand you have a grievance. I understand you're not happy. But I can't imagine that we can make exceptions on some roads and not other roads. And I've heard what you have to say.
I personally don't feel that you've heard what I had to say, because there are several errors in what you've said. Number one, I came here to represent 4 of my neighbors. There's no more than 8 or 9 homes on Roby Street. So I'm here to represent 50% of the population.
Well, I understand. I wasn't
on Roby
necessarily
Street, number
just
one.
talking about
Number
Roby Street.
2, I've lived this address for over 13 years, okay, and it has never been posted as a no parking.
Exactly.
Number 3, okay, as my niece will tell you, okay, she has a parking permit, as do several other members of my family, okay, and they come down to the beach like she did last Sunday, okay, at 11 a.m., and there wasn't a single parking space other than those spaces that are reserved for boaters, which rarely ever park there and go empty. There wasn't a single space there. So she came to my home to park in my driveway. I think that as representatives of us, we need to be included in this discussion. And I've lived there for 13 years, and if there was a sign there, it was more than 13 years ago.
I agree with you. It probably was more than 13 years ago. Most of those streets have been, over the years, have been vandalized as far as those signs. I live in that neighborhood, ma'am, and I also have been there for at least 13 years. And I do get the calls and the knocks on my door and people calling me constantly because of the interference with their property. So I respect that you're a property owner and a taxpayer in this community. We have a problem.
And I presented several ways to address that, either giving out parking guest passes for those people that live there, making it one way. How come Shore Road, which is much more heavily trafficked,